regardless of what's going on around them, they have their methods and their ways, and they understand, some of these people have been working in the movement 20, 30 years. Maybe they're not going to see what they want in their lifetime, and it's okay with them. Margaret Johnson. I'm a sociologist, a writer, and a business owner. I manage a language translation company. I also work as a senior researcher for the Institute of Islamic and Turkish Studies located here in Fairfax, and in that capacity I've been researching the Hizmet Movement for several years now, and I visited with Hizmet members and interviewed them in several different countries like Singapore, Indonesia, Nigeria, Egypt, Turkey, of course, the United States. When we want to understand the Hizmet movement, as a sociologist, first I'm looking at it as a social movement, but it has many distinct characteristics that we don't commonly find in social movements. I mean, social movements generally are oppositional movements, or they're looking to achieve some specific goal or involved in politics, and the Hizmet movement is really has a different kind of character to it. And it very much takes an individual approach. So it's looking to reform society, not by entering politics or changing laws or institutions, but really by reforming the individual. And this is kind of a very unique approach. And I think this is a really important contribution of the Hizmet movement. And this, of course, comes from Fethullah Hocaefendi's understanding, or his philosophy is to focus on the individual. And that's what movement members do first themselves, is they try to develop themselves as human beings, purify themselves, improve their character. This is what they're doing, but they're not doing it as an end in itself. They're doing it so they can be of service to others. And so when they go out in the world, first of all, they're modeling an ideal Islamic character. And the Hizmet people are among the best people I've ever met in my life here on earth, just, as human beings. And this is very important. I think this is a really important contribution. And the other thing that's really kind of unique and special about Hizmet is its time horizon, because really its philosophy is to focus on the individual. And a lot of times it gets called an education movement. But it's not an education movement just because it has schools. It has education movement because it believes this is how you change the world. You start with developing the human being, the child, the adult, wherever they are in life. Meet them where they are. And the schools focus on the best education. Traditionally, they're focused on math and science education. They tend to be secular schools. But at the same time, the teachers are modeling this Islamic character, which basically are universal human values that we can all agree on, or most people agree on. Sincerity, kindness, love, serving others, loving your country. They model these behaviors to the students and try to develop that so that at the end you have a balanced student, well educated in the mind, but also a dedicated, sincere human being. And you can think about it, this is a long time horizon. Regardless of what's going on around them, they have their methods and their ways, and they understand, some of these people have been working in the movement 20, 30 years. Maybe they're not going to see what they want in their lifetime, and it's okay with them. And they're looking for this big kind of reform that's going to take time, but it's a bottom-up, and this is their approach. And the other important thing is that they give a model to Muslims about and this is something that Hocaefendi, Fethullah Gülen, writes about quite a bit, is how can you be Muslim in the modern world? And he's a scholar that writes for his time. So it's not, we don't want to be some kind of situation where we're saying, you know, we should have Islamic law or we should have Sharia, and, you know, we want to get in government so we can impose this. You know, Hizmet does not take that approach at all. So they're saying, and what Hocaefendi says is, you can live your Islamic character, your Islamic values, your Islamic way of life now. You can do it now, regardless of what the particular governmental structure is you're living under. So, and this way it's also unique because it's not a political movement, and this kind of separates it from other kind of movements. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have reformation or, you know, reform, but the vision is very different, and this is really important. And so it's important for individuals, important for Muslims, and then for non-Muslims, we go, you know, wider circle. Hizmet Movement is an example of Muslims living their faith fully and living in harmony with people that are different from them. And this whole idea of peaceful coexistence. They're living this, modeling this, and showing the way. And this is really important for the Western world. They can see this as, you know, an antidote to this idea. Because we know, if we look at survey research, that a lot of Westerners and Americans, they fear Muslims. You know, they're thinking negatively about Islam. And so the Hizmet really provides a very strong counterweight, you know, a positive example to these negative ideas. So the schools that are around the world are very important. I mean, they're important for several different dimensions. But if we just want to take, you know, I talked about the importance of peaceful coexistence and modeling Islamic behavior and how important that was. Well, what you see in the schools, they're not just places of education. Like, on purpose, you will see in the Hizmet schools, they bring together children from different ethnic groups, from different religious groups, on purpose in the same school. So in Nigeria, which everybody knows, has issues with Muslim-Christian conflicts and riots periodically and killings, you know, very difficult situation. But what you will find in the Hizmet schools in Nigeria, you're going to find Christians and Muslims in the school together, children learning side by side, being friends. And so they're having these experiences about learning, what does it mean? They're learning about each other. So then the person is not the other anymore. And they can learn how to get along with each other. So they're learning this idea about peaceful coexistence. Maybe if you want to compare it to other Sufi movements, it very much has a strong emphasis on, you know, developing that perfect human character, like other Sufi movements do. But one key thing is that for what ends? You know, the purpose is to go be of service. So something unique about Hizmet, it always had this, you're doing this so you could go serve humanity. And the strong service component from the beginning. And the other thing that I already mentioned, it's not a political movement. It's not looking to become a political party or endorse certain politicians. You know, in Turkey you see it have a voice in the political arena as a civil society organization, you know, because part of Hizmet values is to support democracy, protection of minority rights, justice, freedom, religious freedom, freedom of the press, you know, all of these different kinds of important aspects of a democratic society. So there, like you saw, Hizmet support the democratic, the constitutional referendums. But at the same time, Hizmet is not going to support any particular candidate. It's not going to pledge loyalty to any particular individual, political individual, because it's says, you know, whoever shares our values. So it's not looking to be a political movement. It's not looking for political power. And in fact, Hocaefendi, Fethullah Gülen, he explicitly, you know, cautions his followers away from that. So it's unique in this way too. Hizmet's engaged in a lot of charitable activities around the world. And this is really profoundly important. I mean, it's important for, obviously, the recipients of the charity are benefiting from that. But it's also, again, it's a way of dialogue. It's saying, you know, we're Muslims, this is what we do. You know, some Muslim people might object and say, why are you giving charity to non-Muslims when Muslims are suffering so much in the world? And it is true. Unfortunately, we have such high levels of suffering in the Muslim world. But, and Hizmet gives to Muslim people all over the world charity also. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't give to others as well. I mean, we should. It's our duty. It's our obligation. And it's a way, I mean, in America we have the Red Cross, which pretty much is a secular organization, but started as a Christian organization. You know, it goes everywhere. Muslims should as well. We should go everywhere, and we should be there, and people should see this face of Islam. And also, it's a great benefit. I mean, it's a great benefit. Turkey benefit. When Turkish people going as Hizmet, a lot of times the people of the country, they're seeing Turkey's coming and helping us. And that's a great benefit to the image of Turkey.